Associate Research Fellow, Division of National Security Research, Institute for National Defense and Security Research, Taiwan. They will speak on impact of military civil fusion on China's defense industry modernization, followed by now I hand over floor to the chair.
Thank you, Bhagyashri. May I request all the speakers of today's session to please come forward and be at their place. Brigadier Anshuman Narang, please. Dr. Jabin Jacob, Dr. Shane, and Dr. Lee. Yes, thank you so much. Bhagyashri has already introduced these esteemed speakers to all of you. And after yesterday's elaborate and intensive discussion on 3 topics, today in this last session of the 7th India-China Forum, we will be discussing about military-civil fusion in China's development strategy. In the forum, this is the last session, and we are having these 4 distinguished speakers who will be talking about the civil-military fusion in China's development strategy. When we think about People's Republic of China, this has been a topic of enduring interest for the scholars, China watchers, diplomats, and anyone interested in China. The party-state relationship, party-society relationship, party-military relationship, military-civil relationship, and how all these relationships have produced their own dynamism in China's system. And from the time of the beginning of the revolutionary process in China, there always has been a military party, military civil fusion, partnership, and overlapping of the processes that we could see in the Chinese history. In the modern Chinese history, China's military, or as it is called as the People's Liberation Army, has always occupied a very, very important place in China's development strategy. And the Chinese Communist Party, which controls the military in China, People's Liberation Army in China, for them this has been one of the important wings of ensuring the path of development that the party has chosen in different phases in last 75 years or so. With the process of modernization that Deng Xiaoping embarked on since 1978, he also ensured that one of his modernization would be that of the defense sector. And defense became one of the important aspects of the modernization project of China in the liberalization period, that is post-1978. But with that, with the process of liberalization, also emerged a discussion, a discourse that liberalization of China can truly be successful if there would be a clear-cut distinction between party and military, between party and society, and accordingly, at least up to the early 21st century, some developments have taken place wherein the processes were attempted to inculcate to try to project that China is trying to evolve a path wherein there would be a clear-cut distinction between state, party, society, etc. However, over the last 10 years under Xi Jinping's regime, we could see that once again Chinese Communist Party is re-establishing its stronghold over all the wings, over all the sectors in the country. And military also is not an exception to that. And in that particular context, wherein Xi Jinping has given a very, very ambitious developmental agenda to China, his leadership also is looking at military as something, as an important wing that would contribute to achieve the developmental goals that the Communist Party has set for itself and for the country. The 2035 developmental goal, 2049 development goal. And in that context, we are going to discuss some of the aspects of civil-military fusion in this particular session. Let me now invite the first speaker of today's session, Dr. Shen, who is a research fellow and director at Division of National Security Research, Institute for National Defense and Security Research, Taiwan. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair Dr. Sudhaka, and organizer Yavin. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad to be here to join this year IFC. I still remember last year we are in Mumbai talking about another China issue. I present the topic is military-civil confusion to the global security initiative. I think there is not direct implication, military-civil fusion to the global security initiative. But today, my topic is more directly than last year. My topic is the impact of the military-civil fusion on China's defense industrial modernization. And Dr. Sudhaka mentioned about 1978 Deng Xiaoping for modernization, industrial, agriculture, defense, and science and technology. But right now, you can see that the defense modernization and technology modernization already integrated together. And they try to find some Western technology to improve, to increase their capability in technology. Not only invite, maybe steal, maybe save, they have different way. And then today's presentation, I will join my colleague, Dr. Li Jingyi, and maybe later he will also talk something about this. Let's check the history about China military or defense industrial modernization history. We can see because PLA come from Red Army, right? Red Army is a guerrilla warfare. They don't have a formal logistic system or formal supporting system. And then because their party control everything. So in China, the whole government and civil system under the leadership of the party during the Red Army and still right now also. It needs the party to be a dominated ruler to control everything and put the all sort on the military-civil fusion. We also can see from 1949, the early stage of the founding of the PRC, China military modernization is a system from and development, the system from and development from the Soviet Union. But after the breakup, CCP and Soviet Union and China tried to do itself to develop its military modernization, especially in 1980. But after the Tiananmen Square, before Tiananmen Square, China, because the United States also put some support to the China, but after the 1989, cut down any support from the Western country. So from there on, they also do it by China itself. And after the 1980, 1990, after the economic rise, so China had more resource and defense technology through the private enterprise to get more technology. For example, it used an entertainment company to acquire all Ukraine aircraft carrier. We know Liaoning Hao. Liaoning Hao is from a civil enterprise to buy from Ukraine and say, okay, I will make a maritime park and buy that at Korea and then back to the China and develop the first aircraft carrier, Liaoning Hao. So I think this also is a military civil fusion. And the development of the dual use technology and the key technology obtained through the military civil fusion right now. I conclude that some factors, some characteristics of the China military civil fusion. First one is eliminate the barrier between the civilian and defense sector and facilitated the direct flow of technical talent and capital. The second one is leverage domestic and foreign civilian technology, investment and R&D and partnership opportunity to develop China's military and intelligence capability. The last one is systematically transfer technology to ensure that China military win the rest to develop and integrate the range of key emerging military applications, including AI, biotechnology, and quantum computing. There's a framework of MCF. MCF, demand and supply. You can see in the supply, you have resource increasing and improve the resource allocation efficiency. And then got a new model, develop new model, and then new industry. Under the demand is from military to civilian, and from civilian to the military. And from military to civilian is a new combat, to get a new combat capability. And from civilian to military is a new production capability. China MCF has 6 key areas. The first one is coordinating infrastructure, construction, and resourcing sharing. The second one is developing national defense, science and technology, industry, and weapon and equipment. The third one is strengthening collaborative innovation. Yesterday we mentioned about innovation, right? For military and civilian science and technology. The fourth is strengthening the training and exchange of military and civilian talent, personnel. Fifth, enhancing social service and military logistic coordination and support. The last one is boosting, increase the modernization of national defense mobilization. And also set emerging field of NCF. China tried to seize in high, new, deep, and far frontier integration. And that is in the field of ocean, space, cyberspace, biology, new energy, and AI. So this is the 6th emerging field. And China tried to seeking the development of high and new technology from both military and civilian uses. At the same time, going out in China is 走出去, strategy that encourage civilian enterprise to operate internationally to safeguard the ever-expanding national interest. And China intention for MCF, we can see that 2017, they established a unit in the party. The Central Department is the Central Military Civil Fusion Commission to do. I mentioned that the party control everything. So in the party, they have this unit to control the whole country, including the party, including the government, and including the military. And through the military civil fusion and investing in dual-use technology and using civilian resources to develop military technology, civilian can also transfer the military technology to civilian use. Okay. Civilian to military use and civilian use to military use. Okay. And develop military technology at a lower cost. Use this approach to pay lower cost to get high technology. Okay. And because of the bottleneck of the CCP military and technology, the development of NCF is not focused on combat technology, but rather on logistic, baths, construction, catering, chemical industrial, biomedicine, network security, and internet, energy conservation, and environmental protection. So this is also the problem of the China MCF. They don't have a capability to focus a big platform, weapon system. So change the object to the other thing, other technology. I can read this example. We can see the upper picture of the plane is J-31, and right now also transferred to J-35 to be on the aircraft carrier. A copy from United States F-35 I mentioned yesterday, and then it already to be a joke. Okay, to be a joke. You can see, yeah, but you rename to be J-35, but your capability is not qualified to compete with the F-35 of the United States. This is China made Falcon aircraft, like a special force use. You can see did also the so-called use MCF to make this like helicopter. And NCF development strategy issued. Okay, I skip this slide. And I conclude that the 5 major shortcomings of China NCF. The first one is the gap between the cutting edge, the very good technology, net and private technology. Second one is the gap between the determination and motivation of central and local enterprise to promote. So there's a big gap between the central and the local enterprise. The third one is the gap between the free market and the military market in their different way to cooperate. The fourth one is the regulation governed whether the patent rights belong to the military or private enterprise are unclear. So civilian enterprise developed this weapon system. The Western right belong to this enterprise or belong to the military. If belong to the civilian enterprise, maybe they can sell to another country, right? But belong to the military, why civilian enterprise want to develop this kind of weapon system? The last one is the homogenization of development in the same region result in duplication of investment and waste of cost. The implication, I think maybe the last slide. The risk of a private enterprise dealing foreign military technology. Okay, so why a civilian enterprise steal the technology from other country for military? And in addition to the state-owned enterprise, and private enterprise had increasingly taken the role of importing technology, and incident of the plagiarism, fraud, and thief by any means are common, which affect China's image and make foreign country guard against China technology thief. And China defense industry is relatively backward than other countries. And the flow of talent is sure and rigid. And private enterprise often make repeated investment in the research direction, production, and institution and equipment configuration. There is often a gap between regulation and the civil regulation, and making it difficult to meet the one standard. And conversion from military to civilian involve military secret and require a relatively long operation time, and progress is relatively slow because it is secret, top secret. And then the process will be very slow. Okay. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just use the remaining 2 minutes Yeah, because I wanted to be a free rider, but apparently the chair and Dr. Shen do not allow me to do so. So I think to conclude, I think this paper tries to convey two central messages. The first is that when it comes to China's MCF, the problem seems to lie in the institutional factor. That is the so-called supplier and client relations. So here, the client being the POA, whereas the supplier being the Chinese conglomerates or so-called big companies, state-owned companies. Now, ideally, it should be the case that the POA put forth its demand, and then the military or the defense industry produce what the POA needs. But in China, this is not always the case. So because the main actors are the state-owned enterprises, they do not have motivation for efficiency, for competition. And so, and also they occupy the positions to determine what national resources can be allocated. So in this process, the state-owned enterprises produce what the POA has to use rather than the other way around. So I think this is the most significant factor that explains why there are some structural problems with China's MCF. So the implication is that even though Xi Jinping himself tries to enhance its leadership and to promote MCF, for instance, in 2017, he established a central commission for the integration of civil and military development. This effort alone was not sufficient. And the Chinese case is also quite different from the US case. Although the Chinese government tries to introduce several organizations in terms of innovation, and from the US, the institutional factors hindered that kind of effort. So in the US, basically, military procurement is done by the private sector. So companies compete for the DoD's contracts. But in China, because of the presence of this big state-owned companies, this is not the case. So I think this is the first message or findings we have for this paper. And my second point is that this, however, doesn't say that the Chinese MCF is a total failure. So in other areas, for instance, the drones and artificial intelligence, the AI, China is quite good at these two areas. And what explains that success, I think, is from the private sector, from the civil society. For instance, the drones, even though the Chinese government since 2017 has come up with a list indicating what kinds of technologies future drones should have, the advance and the development of drones in China, I think, need to be explained in part by the COVID-19. Because during the COVID-19 pandemic, there were lockdowns in major Chinese cities. So there were practical demands for the local government to surveil and to monitor people and to deliver the necessary services like food, like medications, and so on and so forth. So in this period of time, the private sector had the incentives to develop the so-called low altitude, slow, and small drones. And this kinds of drones in turn can be applied to or for military purposes. So I think this is also one issue area we need to pay particular attention. Yeah, and I think, yes, Dr. Shen is reminding me, so I just stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee and Dr. Shen. This was really a very precise presentation on the military civil fusion. And most importantly, you have pointed out the 5 gaps that are existing there in the military civil fusion. This is even when from the beginning defense modernization and science and technology modernization is going hand in hand, and still these gaps are persisting there. But irrespective of that, they have been able, what you have pointed out, is to ensure a good partnership in the logistical sector, in energy conservation, etc. So that also it seems the Chinese establishment is clear what they can achieve, and whatever they could achieve through this military fusion, they are trying to do it in all those sectors. And the 3 sectors that you have pointed out where they are focusing in terms of military civil fusion is artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and quantum computing. And all these 3 sectors, they are going to, or they are rather they have already started dominating the world, and the developments in these 3 sectors are shaping the science and technology in the 21st century. So in all these contexts, I think the points that you have raised are quite important one. Now let me invite our next speaker, Dr. Jabin Jacob from Shiv Nadar University.
Thank you, Parimal. Let me begin by thanking the MIT School of Government for partnering with us and the Institute of Chinese Studies for the 7th India Forum on China. Now, I realize that I stand between 2 sets of experts. There are Taiwanese friends as well as Brigadier Narang. So both sides have military experience, and I am the civilian here. So what I'm going to try and do is, try and pull out a certain aspect of what we call military civil fusion in China, which is the development objectives, and in some ways supplement what has gone before me by the 2, spoken by the 2 Taiwanese speakers, but also make it relevant to a situation or an institution such as this. And most of you are students of political science. For our guests, I want to say that this is one place, the School of Government in MIT is a place that actually trains our future leaders. And I think it's very important, one of the big shortcomings in the Indian context is the lack of knowledge of military affairs among our political class. Not just military affairs, of course, but in general foreign policy and security affairs. So it's very important. I mean, the reason why this theme is very important is precisely because this is a form of excuse me, training you for future governance and leadership. Our Taiwanese friends talked about how China is learning or has learned a great deal about the civil-military integration or military-civil fusion process from the Americans. So the question for us is, since we are in this undeclared competition with the Chinese, what is it that we can learn also and maybe not learn from the Chinese experience, right? So, okay, this is actually, okay, or is it? No, how's it going? I'm sorry, where is the beginning of this, please? Put it in the beginning. Yes. Yeah, this is the first slide, please. Yeah. Yes. Okay. You have to scroll back. Yeah. So how can I go this way? Okay, this is the. Okay, fine. All right, good. But no, can you go back to the previous slide? So this doesn't seem to go in. Okay, fine. I will just make sure that it goes in one direction. So this is my broad outline. I look at one aspect, one key feature of the idea of military civil fusion as a development project. When I say development, I'm just obviously some factors have already been mentioned, but I'm looking at one factor, one key feature of this development project, which is centralization. And the other is an objective, alleviating regional disparity. I mean, China is a large country, so, and China, by the way, is not a fully developed country. So one of the objectives, one of the smart things that all leaders will do is try and maximize your resources. You put in X amount of money and you want it to do multiple things. So military civil fusion, that's the objective. And I look at, the objectives within the this larger goal of alleviating regional disparity, and an example of a typical provincial level military civil fusion committee. And I give you some case studies, and two of them are Chinese regions bordering India, and one is a random case study from the middle of China. And the conclusion. So, civil military fusion, or what in normal political science parlance in other parts of the world is known as civil military integration, has a long history. 50s, 60s onwards, this has been around. And the while in English is always called civil military integration for a longest time, in Chinese the expression has changed. It's called Chunmin Jiehe, Chunmin Iti Hua. So the expression changing means that the Chinese objectives with this process has also changed. That is to say that while you might dismiss China as an authoritarian state, this is an authoritarian state with a great capacity for self-reflection and learning. Yesterday's presentation by Mr. Pranay Dive, you saw that Made in China 2025 statement, in which the Chinese are reflecting and critical about the problems in their manufacturing sector. So the fact that they keep changing their terms all regularly means that they are also constantly thinking how to make this process efficient. Now, the basic objective is to ensure civilians participate in military initiatives, okay? And that military effort can also be converted for civilian good. This has always been the basic fundamental of civil military integration. But under Xi Jinping, the objective, the military civil fusion term has slightly longer prominence than Xi Jinping, but the objective has also become very sharply about preserving the regime in power. So, we always say China is a party state. So don't forget that it is a party state. It is a state devoted to keeping one political party in power. This must not be forgotten. So it doesn't function or think like a normal state. In our country, governments may come and fall, but larger objectives remain the same. But and the objective is not to keep one political party in power. Whereas in China, the objective is to keep the Communist Party of China in power. So Chunmin Ronghe, or military civil fusion, actually originated in the 17th Party Congress report by 17th Party Congress report by by Hu Jintao, the former General Secretary of the Communist Party of China before Xi Jinping. And then, of course, it has picked up pace under Xi Jinping. Now, if you look at it, in the past, before Xi Jinping, the civilian leader, he's the General Secretary of the Communist Party, is also the head of the Central Military Commission. He wore this outfit. It's not a military uniform. But Xi Jinping has moved to wearing a military uniform. All right? So this tells you, it's a signal to say that the people and the military have to work much, much closer together. Right? Now, what are the implications for us as researchers? A lot of Indian scholars go to China, work with their laboratories, etc., and so on. And one of the recent finding discovered that more than over 100 papers each, scientific papers each from the UK and the US, have been the result of collaborations between civilian scientists in the UK and the US with military counterparts in China. But these civilians did not know that they were working with Chinese military researchers. They come to the UK or the US in the civil uniform, but they are working for military institutions. And what is a very, and there was a specific rule in 2017 that the Chinese Communist Party put out, saying that that no institution should call itself a ministry, bureau, or department, so that foreigners don't get the idea that this is a government-run or a military-run institution, right? So this is an example from a Journal of Chemistry, all right, Journal of Inorganic Materials. And if you look at the bottom, it's called the High-Tech Institute of Xi'an and the High-Tech Institute of Beijing. That's the translation in English. But they forgot to change the translation in the name in Chinese. The name in Chinese, it says the Rocket Force Engineering University in Xi'an and the Rocket Force equipment construction, I think that's what, I can't see it from here, in Beijing. So high tech is now become a synonym for, we should understand high tech institutes as a synonym for military institutions. But civilians, if you don't know about the Chinese military civil fusion system, you think it's okay to work with these guys. Another thing, everybody's heard of the South China Sea dispute, right? So the Chinese have developed a city and one of the occupied features called Sansha. Now, Sansha is a completely good example of military civil fusion. Every aspect of Sansha is an example or a work of military agencies and civilian agencies working together, right? Closer home, we have the example of these Shaokong villages, these border villages that the Chinese have built up all across along the LAC, and these are also again examples of how military and civilian work agencies work together. So these are issues that actually affect us in real time. Now, let me come to the question of centralization. So here you see Xi Jinping back in his, traditional civilian military uniform. But, the idea here is, Dr. Lee mentioned the 2017 Civil Military Fusion Development Committee, the plenary. So the objective there was the rise of civil military integration, or MCF, or military civil fusion development, into a national strategy is a major achievement of our long-term exploration of the laws of coordinated development of economic construction and national defense construction. So economic construction comes before national defense construction, in the sense that there is an equal, if not greater priority often, for economic development and economic objectives from MCF. But at the same time, under Xi Jinping, the idea is to centralize power and to ensure that things get done at the local level. In China, it's so diverse that often provincial authorities will not listen to the central government authorities. So there's another example. They have a national defense education work plan. So you have these students in uniform. On Sundays, all the top universities in China, they have to have if you are good enough to get into a top university in China, you also have the pressure of, participating in military activities over the weekend, etc. So here you have, as part of a national defense education form, you are already training your researchers or your students or scholars who are going to graduate into thinking along MCF lines, right? But at the same time, these documents will also come up with lines such as, you have to remove obstacles to innovation and development, which is to say, again, our Taiwanese friends gave in the conclusion, there's a lot of slips betwixt the cup and the lip, as Shakespeare would put it, that while they have all these grand plans, you should not assume that all of these plans are working so smoothly. I mean, everybody thinks that Chinese are perfect or 10 feet tall or such master strategists, but they make huge amounts of mistakes, and not everything is smooth, all right? So, which brings us to why things are not smooth. Like I said, China is a huge and complex country. Okay, so you have all these provinces, and you see the differences between the provinces. You see the eastern coast is much more developed than the central or the western parts of China. And therefore, one of the big objectives that they have of MCF is to ensure that these regional hubs develop. Now, so you have the Yangtze River Development region, or you have the province of Tibet getting aid from different other provinces of China. The well-off provinces help the poorer parts of Tibet, or big companies in China help the poorer poorer counties or cities in Tibet. Anhui, so this is the final section. I picked a random province in China, central China, called Anhui, and look at the kind of issues that a budget for military civil fusion in the provincial committee of Anhui deals with. Urban and rural community expenditure, agriculture, forestry, water, assistance to other regions such as Tibet, natural resources, marine, meteorology, etc., housing security, financial assistance for students. The funds are earmarked for vocational education, of course, science, technology, and so on. It is R&D. Tibet, all of their airports are dual use. So Sichuan-Tibet Railway, again, just one of the railways. I'm giving you an example. Again, a case of military-civil fusion. Training for businesses, agriculture development, greenhouse farming. Greenhouse farming has become a big thing in Tibet, TAR, Tibet Autonomous Region now. All of it is supported by a combination of military agencies as well as private companies, or Chinese, well, civilian sector companies. Xinjiang, everybody's heard of Xinjiang if you heard of the Uyghur issue and the oppression of the Uyghurs that's going on. So, state-owned enterprise systems. You know what the Food Corporation of India does? There in Xinjiang province, the military is, a lot of it is in charge of the military. Water preservation is a desert area, so water conservancy, medical issues, veterans welfare, this of course happens in all provinces. Re-education camps, what we talked about, the Uyghur issue. New materials, new energy. Xinjiang is a center for big companies called TBEA and so on, which also have, by the way, branches in India. They are in charge of developing engineering products, new materials, energy, and so on. Environment protection, radio and television networks. I mean, imagine All India Radio were to be run by the military. So this is what happens in a province like Xinjiang. Of course, airports again. So in conclusion, I will repeat many of the points that our Taiwanese friends made. It's a question what political science we call fragmented authoritarianism. While it's authoritarian, the point is it doesn't really work so efficiently, and it has to be seen as a you can't just understand or study China from a central government level. You have to go down to the provincial local level. There's a lack of coordination. There's a duplication of technology because sometimes the provinces are competing with each other. Your S&T assets are all in a very scattered, they are not coordinated well properly. They are all scattered around the country. And final point is, of course, that if you're going to use the military to run the economy, how efficient will the military be? It goes against every market principle that a government is running the economy. And yet that is what the Chinese are trying to do, trying to ensure that the government runs the economy efficiently. And the military is one arm to do it. So I think finally in terms of implications for India, if I might just take 30 seconds more, is that as students of politics, you have to understand how the military operates, number one. And even if you have going to learn, I mean, sort of a superficial learning of what China is doing will actually might give you the wrong lessons. So you need to be able to understand that to make the process efficient, first and foremost is to understand what the issues are, what is going on, and only then can you get into the business of analysis and solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jabin. I could understand it's very difficult for a teacher to conclude anything in 12 minutes, but you still managed to convey a lot of important points. And one of the very important point that is that all the students of international relations and particularly those interested in China, they should know is for Chinese and to understand China, terminology is highly important. That what exact terms the Chinese party or Chinese government is using. It has a lot of implications for themselves and for rest of the world as well. Your presentation, Dr. Jabin, was very nuanced one, I must say, and has actually could raise a lot of questions about what's happening in China. The central-provincial relationship also you have brought up in this, and you pointed out that everything is not so smooth, and particularly that the provinces don't listen to the center a lot of times. So that is something that those who study Indian politics, for them this certainly would be something new to understand how exactly the Chinese system is functioning. And in that context, the civil-military fusion is, I think, maybe is it a way to basically address the insecurity of the Chinese party state and through ensuring the military presence in many of the endeavors that generally the government should carry forward. They are trying to see that things are not going out of the control. So I think these are some of the questions that are emerging from your presentation. And for us, you have pointed out how military-civil fusion is actually affecting India on the India-China border, wherein they are constructing villages and keeping up the entire border row as a potential conflict between India and China. So thank you so much. And now let me invite Brigadier Anshuman Narang for his presentation here. Please.
Am I heard well? I've got a lot of stuff. It's fine, it's fine.
So it is being recorded. There are a lot of slides and I had planned on 20 minutes, so I'll stick by 15 or whatever 12 minutes, and I'll go fast on the slides.
We have 15 minutes.
So don't get carried away by the content on the slide. It's to convey a particular point, and I'll just drive home one point from each. Any space ecosystem has three parts to it. It's going the other way. It's got the upstream, that's the one which is in space, the satellites and everything. And second is the downstream. Downstream is the one which we are all affected with. You know, you have your phones, you have your Google Maps on and all this. That's what is the downstream. But when you want military-civil fusion, what becomes more important is that the civilian revenues are being generated. So today, when you use Google, you find the route to this place. Who's getting paid? Americans. When you use Starlink on your phone, who's getting paid? Elon Musk. But who's getting facilitated? The American military. But if you use the same civil Map My India by Mr. Rohan or a Navic chip, who gets facilitated? Indian military. The Indian this thing. Have you thought about it? So that is what civil military cooperation is about. Ensuring that the revenues generated by the Chinese commercial firms get on to their military. With that as the aim, I'll just leave it. All of you will be novices, many of you. Just keep it in your mind, what are you grading China as in their space capabilities? I'll show you what the US stated. Like Olympics 2024, China won 5 golds, 4 silvers and 5 bronzes. Total medal tally ahead of US. And these are the various parts you may not understand. Just to put you simply, understand in space, EO, electro-optical, is like your visual. You're seeing a man. A doctor, you go down to a doctor, he sees your face and understands it. But a lot of complications he can't make out. So when you have to click a photograph and the weather is bad, you'll not get a clear photograph. So you're going for an X-ray. X-ray is SAR. And then if you have to go down something lower, you go for a CT scan or MRI, and that's multispectral and hyperspectral. That's how camera functions. You've seen the satellite growth phenomenally high, but see the quantum. China at 647, USA at 4,723. But that's not what the eye needs to accept. China is not 1/5 of what US is. We'll just come on to it. Now see the second part, military civil, where in 2014 to 18, China's civilian blue arrow was much lower than red. See the tonnages sent. In 2023, it's nearly at par. So there is a significant change. You go ahead, economics, which I talked about. The biggest challenge today is to get lowest cost. Falcon 9 of Starlink, Elon Musk has managed to get it less than $1,000 per kg. So every 1 kg you're sending it up in space, he's trying to get it at a lower than $1,000 per kg. That's the cost. Whereas the others are struggling. So reusability, second part, to launch a military satellite, you may do it as much. From 2007 till 2024, you have just come down thrice, 3 times the cost. Whereas on a civilian cost, you have come down 10 times. Because the revenues are getting generated, it becomes easier to produce. And that's where the civil-military cooperation has to come in, and I'll highlight those issues exactly. Now, second part which I talked about, you see the 2158 number of communication satellites. Now, out of that 4,000 satellites, 2,000 plus satellites have been launched by one man alone, Elon Musk. And he is an ideal example of space cooperation, civil military. Crossing 400 billion mark, nearly 1/5 of India's economy, 150 countries GDP together, that's what Elon Musk is today. He has the power to speak to the Ukrainian president and deny him during war, I'll not provide you this. And for those 3-4 days, the Ukrainian army did not get any Starlink communication. What is China doing? China challenged, and Elon Musk made fun of China on electric vehicle cars. Today, Tesla is not number one. The same state, Chinese are struggling in and out, have their civil military cooperation together to have their equivalent of US Starlink. And that's the challenge which we are going to be talking about. Certain lessons from space, my Taiwanese friend beautifully brought out 2 critical lessons. I'll just come a bit later. Now, Wenchuan earthquake. See, there is an earthquake which happens. National disaster management authorities need to move. The satellite up is that upstream in air. That picks up a photograph. The photograph is there of the earthquake where the casualties are taking place, but that doesn't reach the people in time. So the Chinese scientist brings out a lesson, oh, no, we need to reduce the time. The pirates which are to be caught in Africa, they move to a point, but by the time the PLA reaches that point, it is 5 hours late. Why the delay? Because the satellite is up in Africa, the data has to be passed somewhere else. So that time delay. And Chinese work out that we need to reduce this time. Make an Earth observation brain. You are seeing so many, they say it's the fools who learn from own mistakes. The intelligent people learn from others' mistake. And all these conflicts have shown 2 things. One, what he brought out is the miniaturization of drones, small drones. You have those blanket delivery, you have advertisements coming in, there is someone flying your FPV, the mother orders, the son from home is driving FPV, delivers the coffee while he's driving a boat. The parents are enjoying the same thing being used in military to deliver the ammunition. Second part is the commercialization of the space. Now, commercialization of the space, as you understand, in military there is a term called kill chain. And what the Chinese call it today, a recent phrase, detection means destruction. You're moving on a combat space, you get detected, and it should ensure you're finally destroyed. That is getting enabled by space. When a ship is moving, civilian ship will give out electronic signals. So an alien satellite will pick up that signal, or may not. That carrier comes ahead, or a civilian ship comes ahead. There is a SAR satellite which I talked about, a radar, something like an X-ray, finds out the steel content, and that doesn't get detected. Then you have an electro-optical. So all that cycle together, and why I'm talking about satellites? Because maximum of these satellites which you'll see ahead are civilians. You see the quantum increase in the civilian satellites. Out of 67 launches, more than 100 kg, 20 were commercial. Only 47 were military. That's what Xi Jinping had to say. To explore the vast cosmos, develop the space industry and build China into a space power. And the pillars are innovation. They've taken a lot of time to catch up, and significantly a lot of time in high-tech engines and high-tech technologies. But what has bridged the gap is the creation of something called the Strategic Support Force in 2015, and today transformed into Aerospace Force, being right next, putting all those civilian entities together, getting the BDU. I mean, we were talking sometime earlier, the amount of commercial generation which BDU has done, and ensured that this place, which at some time you were, where they managed to just come ahead of America for a year, and then Elon Musk changed it for America, with Space Command also coming up. They have created the Aerospace Force. Now, Aerospace Force has a lot of civilians. Professor Jacob pointed out some time back. So it has a lot of civilians. You have to keep that issue into mind. The dream, we are clear. They have made out fantastic goals of where they need to be, including resource exploration, picking up things from Mars, picking up things from outer planets, and going down and picking up those resources. All the resources crunch, how they need to make it up. Those plans are going completely in place. But what is important is they have identified technologies. Now these technologies are being developed by the civilians. On-orbit intelligent processing, the AI. Processing it, one satellite itself, one doctor, you go, I mean, today what happens? I took my mother he'll say, oh, this is gastrologist, now you go to this man, and then you go and then MRI done, and then you do. No, what they're doing, one satellite itself will do all your processing and provide you a data in 8 minutes on your mobile. That's what they're looking at. And for that, keep BRI scope in mind. See, money, for Chinese money matters a lot. While also ensuring their regional coverage in the Indo-Pacific Ocean gets covered together. So two aims, military and a civil aim, covered together by a trilogy. Now, the commercialization. While this is the world space economy booming, showing fantastic results of how much revenues Western companies are able to derive from space, China is learning it. And that's why 2 years back they talked about sending 10,000 satellites up in air. And now their aim is 35,000 satellites. Today they are at about 800 plus satellites. 2030, 35,000 satellites. See the difference, which means 5,000 satellites every year they need to send up. And if for those 5,000 satellites you take away, it's about 200,500 tons of material being sent up. What they have done, as someone talked about earlier, the state-owned enterprises. First, the government reform, how the state-owned enterprises have been reformed. And thereafter, those countries, state-owned enterprises combined with the civilians. They have a proper structure in place to ensure, and then they start funding the commercial institutes. And that's not enough. They identify the eras by 2023, how much funding, 2028, how much funding. And then, as Professor Jacob pointed out, you go and give every province responsibility that each province has to have this space policy, has to achieve this kind of a data. And that's why you see 17 provinces and cities, 40 space-related policies they have. They have made 20 commercial space parks. These are the 40 space parks, significantly managing a lot of things together. And each one of them has a military front end which has to be understood and a back end. Top satellite companies today. Now see, all of them have come from 2015 and 2014. Till then, like us, it was just the ISRO, it was just the CASC and others who were managing it. See the growth. And at number 2 company, you have someone which has just got raised in January 22. That's the first company, which is that doctor which I'm talking about, Geely Constellation. Position, navigation, timing, remote sensing, communication, all in one payload. That's what they're working on. So that's the significant difference. And to tap this, finally you need to see the effect. Now while this, what we see is the propaganda of going to be able to process, putting all that together, what I talked to you about, and giving it out to the user mobile terminal, bang, in 7 minutes 51 seconds. That's the time frame. So you require a data, you're moving to your house, you find flooded, and you want the data of your house, which is back home somewhere in Himachal, and it's got flooded. 7 minutes on your user mobile, the output should come. Now they're claiming they've achieved it. They may not have, they may have taken 1 hour, 2 hours, but even that much time is a significant progress. And to see the output, see, this is, for all who don't know, this is Eastern India, the eastern states, starting from Sikkim, going up to Arunachal Pradesh and Wolong. This is the output from the civilian satellites. And see the month output. Sikkim, there is a flood which is taking place. Why are the Chinese interested? Glaciated lake outburst. 430 images of that area in 1 month, purely by one constellation. That's the kind of output. See, similar thing in Eastern Ladakh. Another example, we know what was happening in Manipur. See the time frame, January to April 23. Just 12 satellites, 22,610 captures. Civilian satellites. These are not military satellites. You can't get the data of military satellite captures. Civilian satellite captures of our area. So a lot of work going down in getting those companies, but they are not 10 feet tall. They are the same height. Remember that. When you talk about that Western industry, there is only one Chinese industry which was featuring. They are trying their best, but yes, they are short. So commercialization, particularly communication, is a challenge for them. Now, finally, how does that civil-commercial fusion affect and impact us? This has got a heavy slide, but it's got a lot of background data. The quantum of satellites today they have up in space, each constellation. And what you see on the right is the military and left is the civilian. And this civilian satellites on various kind of varieties are facilitating them to get the kind of data which I was talking about. Second kind of an image which is geospatially Earth, and you see the layout, the region, Indo-Pacific region. These satellites are fixed. So any movement below them, they're going to be covering the movement. So whether it is Taiwan Strait, their exercise is taking place, Indo-Pacific Ocean, they've got their focus clear where they need to pick up the data. This is those picking up the transmissions, informing the other, queuing these satellites, an LN transmission, queuing a SAR, X-ray satellite to pick up and finding out whether the steel is there or not, whether it's a fake, ocean observation satellites. And today, this is the kind of visual picture, if you stand on one place in India, right from 1657 till 1702, 5 minutes, the kind of satellites which will be observing over you, one particular area. And this is Jilin. So, to sum up, gentlemen, see the capacity of the Chinese, Jilin, Superview, and this is a Western assessment. Now, you add the quantum. So, from morning 9 o'clock till afternoon about 1 o'clock, the facility has been provided by the civilians. You see, the military is up. What is in blue is civil. Less than every 12 minutes, he has the capacity to revisit. And it's not me saying alone. The gold medals, both in imaging, the quality, and the revisit time is for China, being given by America. So understand that. Second, the multispectral. If you are, there is going to be a fake, there's going to be deception, you need multispectral and hyperspectral. The chain, Superview, China Sevai satellite comes up first. Going down to hyperspectral, there is a particular band where China is not functioning well. They cope up with the other band. They are not good on X band, they cope up with the C band. Because they started late, they couldn't have the good frequencies, they had to shift the band. And that's where, somewhere in between the linkages, who gets, who applies, those linkages are being shortened through the civil-military fusion. Military and hence, this civilian capacities, what the military would have desired on its own is on one side. You see just this line, the top one, PLA, then the government, then the commercial. It is the civilian capacities which are enhancing and achieving the desired aims of the military. At the same time, if they are able to generate the revenue, that's where when this thing succeeds. Last part is the communication. This is where Elon Musk and everyone else was when the thing started. And as we speak, this is Guowang, G60 and others which were at zero when this year started. And as we are speaking, they are about, by tomorrow, there are about 6 more satellites which are going to be launched. So they are significantly moving up in this race. They have launched 54 such satellites in 2024. They are expecting 1 more launch by this end. So from 0, they are coming to 60 and they have to go to literally 5,000 a year. So that's what they are working out in every band, in every manner, and enhancing the revenue cost. Each of that mobile satellite-enabled terminal has to cost cheaper, and it will cost cheaper only when you enhance the capacities, and then the military gets a solution much faster and advantage whether the 6G raids. Yes, I've discussed these challenges, communication, reusability, the upstream launch cost, what the military is gaining, how are you going to manage the revenue, access to advanced technologies. That's where he says 3 things. Innovation, priority 1. Those are Xi's pet dialogue. Technology is key code compatibility, and talent is a strategic resource. So these 3 things he's focusing on. And in space today, if any nation has to win the race, there are 20 factors from my side. This is purely my research. There are 20 R's which you need to manage. And in those 20 R's, the most critical 5 and the ones which I enable going to be purely require civilian interest. I finished. I hope I didn't take time.
May I request all the panelists to come forward for taking questions, comments, for further discussion. Thank you, Brigadier Anshuman Narang, for such an elaborate presentation. It will take a lot of time for us to absorb all of this data and information. but the only impression I could gather is it is highly important for all of us to understand and to go in depth of what you have presented here, because this is certainly going to have a lot of implications on science and technology in the world, and also on the Indian region as well. Before we go into the question and answer session, may I request all the panelists, if we could get your presentations, because all the participants would like to have them, and if we could share it with all the participants. Yes, thank you so much. So the floor is now open for questions, comments. Please introduce yourself and be brief in your question. So, Atharva.
Good morning, one and all. My name is Atharva Vyavhare. I am from MIT SOG. There are two questions, one to Dr. Shen and one to Brigadier Narang. To Dr. Shen, you mentioned that in supply chain, China is focusing on increasing the resources. So what is the approach of increasing the resources, and do they do resource mapping as such in the supply chain, supply-demand chain? And to Brigadier Narang, my question is, you talked about China's focusing on launching 35,000 satellites in coming years. So it is basically the crux is to increase the payload capacity. So in the context of India, where does India stands in terms of payload capacity? And what is the approach to increase that?
Saran.
We know that military-civil fusion is a very important strategy to China, especially CCP, because they don't have best and they don't have technology to get advanced weapon system. So they need pour more resources to the civilian, because we know that the civilian enterprise of China, not real civilian enterprise. Some of it is military industrial and then reform and to be the civilian enterprise. And also, why have so many corruption in China? You can see that very famous China Noriko, North military enterprise company, Wang Jun, also the party second generation. And this civilian enterprise connected to the military and then can get more budget and resort to this project, and then corruption. So, but China don't have another way to get more advanced technology, because sanction, because if you use military way to get more advanced technology, many countries, Western countries, were not allowed to give China. But it can use that civilian enterprise to get that cooperation, or maybe invest to another Western company and buy their company back to the China. They have different way, but result is very important. So China need to pay more result to this strategy, to this civilian enterprise, to get more advanced technology.
Before I start, I'll just add two things to the resource part. The mother or the father of both Taiwan and China in a way is Mr. Sun Yat-sen. And in 1922, he said about Tibet what Professor Jacob talked about. Tibet has the maximum mineral resources. And when everyone will dry up in China, you would have to go to Tibet. And he laid down those railway lines which need to be made to Tibet. And those railway lines are being made to those exact places which meet those mineral requirements as well as meet the military requirements. And they're being made by whom? Xinjiang Construction and Production Corps. Tibet, so many other things. Whether it's connecting Sichuan, it is connecting Xinghai, or it's connecting Gansu, Xinjiang and others. So that's first part. Second part is, you take an example of distant water fishing fleets. A particular example where Chinese Coast Guard merges with them, or the maritime militia merges with them. They go to Brazil, which was a concern with Brazil, wasn't distant. And fish is a resource, a primary staple diet for them. They need it. So that resource mapping they're adequately doing. So Coming down to the second part of your satellites, launching 35,000 satellites is not just the payload. 35, that's the front end, you know what you're seeing, the payload. To launch that satellite, you require rockets. To launch those rockets, you require rocket engines. To launch that rocket engines, you require the fuel. And to be able to do all that, you'll require a place to launch them from. So that place to launch them for, they had 3, they increased to 4, they now made 5, and they're looking towards 7. To have that many satellites up, they require that payloads, they require the batteries, they require the components. So that satellite production capacity itself, today, if you have to have an honest evaluation, is just about 2,000 satellites per year. To produce the satellites itself, they're trying to reach to 5,000. So that's one constraint. Launch capacities. It's not more than about 300 what they can handle today. And even if you see a lot of ride sharing, that a lot of satellites, something like India displayed, and then the Chinese beat that record having 63 satellites on one rocket going up. Still, you require a particular quantum of rockets. And then finally, the weight, what you were indicating towards. Now, where India stands, I'll not elaborate on it. Intentionally, you'll understand. But yes, we have one launch center. So you require that many launch centers. You require the capacity to launch heavy satellites, because only heavy satellites will take that payload. So while Chinese plans are absolutely ambitious, reusability and others, but one thing in a hurry, I sort of left it. Their reusable rockets, they have still not succeeded. And they're testing 8 of them in 2025. 7 are private players and 1 is government. Where are we today? In that medal tally, you found 1, that was Pixel, Anand. That's an Indian commercial player who has just gone into it. That was the first satellite. 1 more satellite of its hyperspectral has been launched. They're working on a data library. The civilian talent is, I mean, it's astonishing. It's damn good. We have to break those compartments and get them. We can succeed and beat them. Just be confident about it.
Hello, sir. I'm from SP College, and my question is that Chinese military is developing military, as we all aware, and there are many developing nations and companies which have threats regarding security and software. So, is this only one solution to all the challenges? Only sanction is a execution for all companies, or anything else could be the solution to them? That's my question, I think.
Basically, as I understand, I may be wrong, you are saying, are sanctions the solution to stop them, or
Yeah.
what else can be done to stop their progress?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So true.
See, when 2 lotuses grow next to each other, one lotus does not, look, you try and grow your own lotus stronger. So, the actual way of growth is, sharing knowledge is doubled. You grow yourself stronger, I think so that will be a better way, because any determined person, and that's what the Chinese have picked up. When they were denied nuclear support initially by Russia and then by US, they went on and made their own. So the determination of that country gets stronger and stronger by denial. But if you make yourself stronger, and for us, that's the biggest lesson today. We have to be indigenously strong. Please ask all of you, and that's why I gave that example. That man, Mr. Rohan Verma, he's worked so hard to make that map My India. How many of you are using it on your mobile? We're all using Google Maps. So think back. So I'm just trying to say is, I don't feel that sanctions is a solution to stop them. That will make them only critically stronger. You stop them by not providing those nanometers of semiconductors. They broke those barriers of 14 nanometers and have come down below it. Now, they will have their own lithographic machines because Taiwan is bound not to give it to them. But somewhere down the line, they will find a ways and means. Today, in the Russia-Ukraine war, the biggest challenge to Ukrainians is because the Western's technology is not succeeding as good as the Chinese miniaturized drones. They are succeeding faster, but they are not able to have access to Chinese. So they are building their own. You see the project Brave One, which is they've started. Fantastic, school-going, college-going students coming up with fantastic solutions. Their minds are being allowed to go free and work for the nation. So my take will be work on ourselves to be superior than them.
Uh, Good morning, sir. Myself, Soham Deshmukh, and my first question is to Dr. Jacob, sir. Sir, you mentioned that China is currently not a fully developed country. So, firstly, my take on it is that the UN requires fully developed countries to have carbon neutrality, like reduce carbon footprints, and the current the current manufacturing industry that they have will be affected by that, as they require technological transfer and all of that. So I would like to hear your take on when you say why China is not a fully developed country. And my second question is to Brigadier sir. Sir, China currently, the Chinese space policy that they have, so the document says that they are currently a pro-space armament country, and they also have equipments like anti-sats that only a few countries in the world possess, like USA. So how does that come into picture when we take into consideration the US and India, US, India, China trilateral relations, or even US and in US, China and India, China bilateral relations? Thank you, sir.
Okay, so quickly, the Chinese themselves say that they are not a fully developed country. As per their own statements, they have only become a moderately prosperous society by 2021, which is the 100th anniversary of the Communist Party. And moderately prosperous in their reckoning is the elimination of absolute poverty in China. But that also you have to remember that the standard benchmark for what is absolute poverty in China is different from the global benchmark for absolute poverty. The global benchmark is $2, and the Chinese is actually much lower than that. And this was before we got into COVID big time, so we don't know what the state is. The other thing is, I don't think carbon neutrality alone can be seen as a signifier of having developed. And by the way, if carbon neutrality is the goal, I think the Chinese are seeking to be carbon neutral by 2030. So see, they have their own goals. By 2049, the 100th anniversary of the establishment of the PRC is when they are saying that they will be a developed country, a major, a powerful nation. I mean, they have their own set of language for it. So, I mean, my short answer, I suppose, is to look at what the Chinese themselves are saying and take that seriously. Thank you.
Okay, your question about anti-satellite capabilities. Now, there are 5 or 6 factors in anti-satellite which function and which decide where you stand. Today, if you take those 5, 6 factors, basically you have a capacity from ground to hit those satellites in low Earth, medium Earth. Then you have the capacity to lace them by electromagnetic and electronic warfare, or you have a cyber capacity, and so 5, 6 parameters. In those 5, 6 parameters, again, there's something called operationalized, that yes, those technology has been displayed and operationalized. Another level is just displayed. And third is R&D is happening. Now, in all those 5, Russia is number 1. China is number 2. And America is number 3. Why China is number 2? Because 3 of them have been operationalized. All 5 have not been. And India is not operationalized. Has the capacity and R&D in some. So I leave it at that. So undoubtedly, China is ahead. The space maneuver warfare which they are playing, the kind of maneuvers they are doing, it's significantly fast and they're working on it. So that's there.
Thank you so much, Chair. First, my compliments to all the speakers. This has been a really thought-provoking panel presentation. Just taking from, important points that each of you have mentioned, it's occurring to me that one technology that will play a very significant role in the Chinese civilian military fusion project is the small modular reactor technology, the SMRs. If you see the SMRs are portable energy machines. Once the Linglong one is already being constructed in China, and this SMR is going to be commissioned in another 2 years. So you'll already see the SMRs being rolled out for energy production in another 2 years. But given how the Chinese function, this could also be a money-making business because they'll be exporting SMRs to other countries. The SMRs is also a base technology for your floating nuclear power plants. And because they are portable, they also have potential applications in military, for instance, your energy requirements in combat operations. But then I'm also thinking about all the obstacles and all the limitations that each of you have mentioned in your presentation. So I guess my question is directed mainly towards Dr. Shen and Dr. Lee, but also Jabin, feel free to answer. Will we be overestimating the potential of a technology like the SMR for China?
I can read the example. I think several months ago, we can see that a submarine sinking in Changjiang, I think, because that the PLA tried to develop a new submarine, and the submarine have two different power systems. One is traditional, one is a new nuclear reactor, and then I don't know why, but you can see that China tried to import that some the dual-use technology to use in the military development. That is a very good example. But I don't know why that the reason of that reactor or engine sinking or just some low-level mistake. I don't know. But you can see China try to develop many advanced weapon systems. It used the civilian enterprise to import some very important part and then integrate it to the one weapon system. Okay, that's a catch. So because the military, Jabin talking about, I don't know the brigadier, or Jabin talking about, China right now have 10 military enterprise industrial, but these 10 military enterprise industrial cannot import that very important part, and then Western countries think it will be used in the military system, so it need to use a civilian enterprise to import that. Okay, and what your second question?
Just one question. Are we overestimating the potential of?
Okay, thank you.
Well, I don't really have a good answer, but I think we are talking about technology development and innovation, but what goes hand in hand with technology development is standards. And so who sets the standards will win the market. And I think that requires international collaboration. Yeah, and because China is now promoting its own standards, and along with the African countries and those Central Asian countries. So they are getting an upper hand in terms of the numbers. But modern technology requires some very sophisticated discussion about the standards. I think in that regard, I mean, Taiwan tends to think ourselves as part of the Western world. So we, the Western world, should engage in the standard competition. And I think that's my take on that.
You want to say something?
Okay, see, overestimation of one part, I think so that may not be the correct thing. But yes, as he pointed out, one small component, particularly in power, can critically disable your whole thing. So every component has to be worked out together. And you have to give adequate importance to each one of them. And particularly power management, and there are various power technologies they are working on. That's a separate, 5 hours kind of a discussion on what all power management techniques they're working on. See, as far as artificial intelligence is concerned with space, the machine learning, the general AI, the visual language models, the other language models, all are LLMs, VLMs, all are same, the base model is same. What China is trying to do is they're trying to get their own standards written on it. And that's a bit of a problem. But yes, Indians are following most of those Western collaborated models, and we are working more on that. Chinese is trying to steal them and work on their own, so that's where. But finally, when you talk about artificial intelligence or enablement or intelligentization of space sector, it means your machine is able to process that same image much faster. I'll just give you an example. Like there is this 2 water bottles which are there. Distinguish between a glass bottle and a Bisleri bottle. You need 600 images from a different set for the AI to be able to find out, how the facial recognition grew up. So where India is, we may not have, out of that 600 models, we would have collected about 100 data models. China would have collected about 300, 400. So there is a gap, there is an asymmetry, and our nation, our army, our people are working on it to work on that asymmetry. But I mean, the root of enablement, intelligentization, the methodology will nearly be the same, but yes, their way of implementation will be different.
So 2 small questions, one to Anshuman and Professor Shan. Anshuman, you showed a very comprehensive picture of China's space capabilities. But in last 1.5 years, I think not only the existing leadership of Rocket Force, but also the previous leadership has all been prosecuted and purged. So from outside, when I'm looking at PLA, Rocket Force and space capabilities, how do I say it in a composite framework? Like how much corruption affects their combat capability? And is the corruption only at the top, or is it also in the middle and bottom leadership? So that's one. And Professor Shan, the moment military starts getting to civilian issues, in market or whatever, the scope for corruption increases a lot. So how is she, especially when he's running his entire corruption campaign of tigers and flies and everything, how is he going to ensure that corruption will not seep in and completely, undermine his entire effort?
Okay, Li Shangfu, the first one, defense minister to be purged, was aerospace force, a strategic support force specialist. He used to run one of those launch stations, and his whole life had been in space, and he was the first one to be defense minister to be purged along with it. So military is a system, and let's accept one thing. They are being honest. They're being absolutely transparent, comparatively transparent than all other advanced militaries, whether it is Russia, US, and I will intentionally leave out some. They are being transparent. They are accepting that corruption is there. The official papers are accepting corruption is there. But a corrupt mind does not mean he's not professional, he's not thinking, he's not got a good mind. Corruption is there because finally, what is it? PLA is a party's army. It's not a national army. So that itself, I will say, is a corrupt mind. That you're fighting for the stability of the political leader and not of the nation. I mean, Indian army has to fight for our nation first, not for one party. So that aside, the stability of a military system of space, how it is developing, or rocket force, how it is developing, is seen in other criterias. And we somehow get enstrained by that Western thing that water tap on the rocket was there and that's why it got purged and that's the corruption and all. The Chinese gave a good response by the next system they tested. It was an immediate response they gave it. So they know where to purge. I mean, they know where to show. The military exercises 2024A in Taiwan Strait, Joint Sword, 2024B, and just concluded 2 days back, has a different color to it. What capabilities are desired? So a purging may not just be for corruption, it may be not being able to politically audit and achieve those. So I'll leave it at that and we'll discuss more.
China is a party control country, so they have many strange operation or policy operation. You can understand. Okay, we know that Li Shangfu, because he is served as a general director of the General Armament Department, and then we can also see some general engineer of the Navy, for example, Aircraft Korea. General engineer commit suicide. Okay, we don't know why, but make sure it had corruption in there. Okay, you can check the China policy. I think first one is I give this service. I give Navy, I give Rocky Force, big project, and then this service try to find some company. Maybe national-owned company, maybe civilian company to get this project. And then I will increase the budget to the central, but reduce some to myself and then to the company. There's one model. The second model is different province. No, okay, right now central, Party Central have a very important strategy, important policy. So different provinces get some civilian enterprise to apply the project budget from the central. That we're wasting because maybe the same company in different province, maybe a different company in one province. And then to apply the project, maybe they don't have capability, but get project. Why? Bribe the party officer. So it will make the corruption. So I mentioned about that military-civil fusion West, and maybe with a result, with money, and then because that company is not qualified. So you pour the money, but you can get the production qualified. Okay.
Thank you so much. I fear we are overshooting the time. So let us conclude this session now. And maybe informally we can have more discussion outside. So this was really a very good session, quite nuanced presentations and discussion on the aspects of civil-military fusion. In concluding this session, I would just say that it looks like the civil-military fusion is important for China to bridge the regional gap within China, and also the gap that China is facing vis-a-vis United States particularly, but in the world per se, in the domain of space technology and other technologies. In both these spheres, China is aware about these gaps, but they are not bogged down by these gaps, and they have a long-term plan to overcome. Whether those plans would succeed or not, we are not sure, but certainly they do have a long-term plan to overcome these gaps. So thank you so much all the panelists today, Dr. Shen, Dr. Lee, Dr. Jacob, and Brigadier Narang, for your presence and your insightful presentations with our students, and to all the audience. Before we conclude, let me felicitate all the speakers of today on behalf of MIT School of Government.
India Forum on China has addressed a very important theme. The theme for this conference was the intersection of science and technology in China's industrial revolution and challenges to India and the world. For the last 2 days, we have witnessed a very important and illustrious line of speakers, including Lieutenant General A.K. Singh, Air Marshal Bhushan Gokhale, Brigadier Anshuman Narangji, and many others. Now, in this important conference and a very timely theme, may I now request Ms. Neerja Krishna, student of MIT School of Government, to kindly come forward and express her views. Ms. Neerja Krishna.
Good afternoon, honorable dignitaries, respected faculties and all those present in the forum. Myself Nirja Anil Krishna, student of MIT School of Government, and I am here to conclude the 3-day India Forum on China. The 3-day India Forum on China, organized by MIT School of Government in collaboration with Institute of Chinese Studies, was an insightful experience. It brought together experts, professionals, and scholars to discuss the key concepts involved in the China's policy of global expansion. In the course of 3 days, we learned how China uses its centralized decision making for technological innovation and also in becoming self-sufficient in the field of semiconductor, artificial intelligence, as well as green technologies. We also studied China's expansion in geospatial technology as well as electric vehicles. Apart from this, China's expansion in nuclear industry, defense industry, and the modernization highlights China's intentions and China's strategy for global policy and security. So overall, these 3 days helped us understand what are the China's ambitions and its implications on the India and the world. Once again, also as students, we came to know the importance of dialogue and research involved in addressing the global challenges. So once again, I thank all the dignitaries, participants and faculties for getting into this session and giving your valuable contributions. Once again, thank you so much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neerja. Indeed, important highlights from the last 2 days. Continuing with this trend, may I now invite Mr. Sumit Mandlik, student from SP College, to express his views on the conference.
Hello, my name is Sumit Mandlik from SP College. इन 3 दिनों में इंडिया फॉरेन चाइना 7th सेशन में मैं बहुत सीखा और मोस्टली हमारे TYBA में फॉरेन पॉलिसी में इंडिया चाइना रिलेटेड सिलेबस में दिया हुआ है और इन 3 दिनों में न्यूक्लियर पॉलिसी एंड टेक्नोलॉजी इंडिया एंड चाइना रिलेटेड और ये हमें सीखने के लिए मिला और इस सेशन में हमें डिप में सीखने को मिला और ये 3 डे मेरे लिए बहुत अच्छे रहे और फ्यूचर में फॉरेन पॉलिसी या इंडिया चाइना रिलेशन के बारे में कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्ज़ाम या हमारे सिलेबस में ये है प्रिपरेशन करने के लिए मुझे बहुत प्रिपरेशन बहुत अच्छी से होगी इस सेशन के माध्यम से और मैं इस स्कूल को धन्यवाद कहना चाहूँगा. थैंक्स टू इनवाइट मी.
Thank you, Sumit. Thank you so much. We wish you a very warm and all the best for your future endeavors. May I now welcome Mr. Soham Deshmukh, student of MIT School of Government, to please come forward and express his views.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dignitaries on the dais, and the esteemed dignitaries who spoke yesterday and the day before. My name is Soham Deshmukh. I'm a student from MPG20 of School of Government. Uh, so firstly, first and foremost, thank you so much from the entire School of Government. And for me personally, this has been a very big endeavor, a very good, initiative that India Forum on China has given us today. For me personally, I belong from a political science background, so this was very helpful for me and very insightful. The topics that we have covered in the last 2 days, including today, like topics on nuclear policies and military strategies and civil initiatives in military. So this definitely brings forward a very interesting perspective for us who aspire to be future political leaders for this country. I hope that we all can take something important from this and bring forward a change to the country that we all aspire to see. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Soham. Thank you for your expression of views. May I now invite Mr. Himanshu Bokde, student from SP College, to express his views.
Good. Good afternoon to all dignitaries on the dais and respected participants. My name is Himanshu Bokde from SP College. Last 3 days was very fruitful for us because we learned about lot of things about China and India, like how to evolve China, science and technology in military, as well as how to evolve China in the industrial, and as well as I mentioned, all speakers are outstanding who are here. Thank you to thanks to thanks to MIT School of Government to invite us. Thank you.
Thank you, Himanshu. May I now invite Mr. Atharva Vyavahare, student from MIT School of Government, to express his views.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed dais, all the participants who have participated on all the 3 days, our guest from Taiwan. I'm glad to address the concluding session of 7th India Forum on China, which has brought together eminent minds from universities across India and our friends from Taiwan. At the outset, let me express my gratitude to the organizing team for the excellent arrangements that they have made for all the 3 days. Our discussions were especially significant as India prepares for the Industrial Revolution 4.0. We know that India as well as China are the developing economies and fastest growing economies, representing almost 1/3 of the population. The role that science and technology has to play in the coming years for India and China plays a vital role. Arvind sir yesterday talked about the importance of narrative building, and in Marathi many times we hear that vichardharecha ladait shastra hai astra nasta, but all the wars are fought on the basis of narratives. So I think cooperation is the means that we should move forward. Global politics is derived from how technology is developed. But we should focus on cooperation and build the technologies for common interest of the humanity. So that is the way we should move forward and build the international or bilateral relations. Also, we can link many more sessions, like yesterday it was geospatial data, importance of geospatial data, and today we had a session on space. So we can link what technological role it can play. And also one more important technology that is vital is biotechnology and genetic engineering. We could also focus on that technology also. So yes, the cooperation is the way forward. That is the conclusion. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Atharva. May I now invite Mr. Ishan Dhavde, student from SP College, to express his views on the conference.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Ishan from SP College. Firstly, I'd like to thank MIT WPU and the ICS for organizing this initiative on the IFC. Coming from a political science background, I'd like to say that the session shed light on a lot of fields apart from what we pursue currently, a lot of studies outside our curriculum. This session talked about the technological sector, the industries, nuclear energy, renewable energy, and a lot of current affairs and geopolitics. It was really informative, and I'm sure this session will inspire a lot of budding enthusiasts. All the speakers were really professional while narrating their views. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ishan. May I now invite Mr. Prashant Vaidya, student from MIT School of Government, to express his views on the conference.
Good afternoon, friends. First of all, I thank MIT School of Government and our Parimal sir and all the faculties. The sessions were very well planned and done with good participation from all the students, means from SP College, from MIT, SOG. And these sessions will certainly boost the foreign investments, joint ventures, MOUs too, regarding e-vehicles, semiconductors, manufacturing units. Even today, green hydrogen is very important. Lithium batteries manufacturing is very important. So supply and demand plays a very important role in the economy, maybe of the world, or the nation, or the local self-government, or the state. So Indian government is encouraging Vikasit Bharat, Green Bharat, and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Today's world is a conversion of waste into wealth and knowledge into wealth by entrepreneurship, innovation, skills, research and development. So the nation becomes rich and is said to be well-developed nation mainly due to good quality roads, good infrastructure and connectivity between the roads, railways, airports, waterways, and easiness of integration of all these transportation. I hope we will strive hard to spread the message of urban development as well as the rural development. Means, as we have the smart cities, we need to have the smart villages too. They cannot be neglected. So we can use these e-vehicles, promote, share knowledge in these sessions. We have received regarding military, maybe space, and all these things are very important for our future. As we are the students of politics, so we should know each and everything what is going on in the world. We should be aware of that. Drones, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, we cannot say that we will use it totally, but we cannot avoid it as whole world is competing with each other. More the competition, more effective will be the good world economy as for the each nation. So lastly, I will say that Satata Smaraniyam, Vachasa Satatam Vodaniyam, Loka Hitam Mama Karaniyam means let us always remember, let us repeatedly speak out. Our duty is to do good to humanity. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prashantji. Indeed, some vital suggestions and insights from you, and we'll make sure that as we conduct the next conference in the near future, we'll accommodate some of your suggestions as well. Before moving forward, may I now invite Mr. Deepak Mahajan, student from SP College, to express his views on the conference.
Good afternoon to all of you. Since our childhood, we have always been told that China is a rival of India, but this was my misconception, and maybe this is misconception of all the people, because here are so many areas we are cooperating with each other, India and China, and in our India it is said that in Marathi की अडचण आली की नेहमी बाजूचाच काम येतो, म्हणजे it means if any problem comes to us, immediate neighbor comes first to help us. So it is so much good experience for me, and thank you so much MIT College for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deepak. Now, before we move forward, may I now invite Professor Dr. Arvind Yellary sir to please felicitate Professor Dr. Parimal Maya Sudhakar, the conveners and the co-conveners of the 7th India Forum on China respectively. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Now, dear friends, it is important that we actually understand from the bigwigs of this field about the conference. And moving in this direction, may I now invite Professor Dr. V. Lenin Kumar, Assistant Professor at MIT School of Government, to present the glossary of discussions for the last 2 days. Professor Lenin V. Kumar.
Thank you very much, respected dignitaries and dear students. I think most Dr. Arvind Yellary will going to speak about the reporting of this conference. But I am going to express few of my observations regarding this conference and about the ongoing issues about China's and the particularly challenges for India. I think it's always when we talk about technology and development, the great power rivalry always bring out the best in technology. Whether it's the 19th century, the power rivalry between the France and England brought the great technologies to the modern world, or we can see about the Cold War, where it's brought out one of the most innovation and technology, and also brought the destruction weapons also, where the modern technology it's started from there. I think the new great rivalry which we are witnessing with the rise of China and US also will lead to more innovation and development, like the space of medicine, space, other technology. And one of my another comment about most when we're talking about China and we're talking about India and the military, and I just few points like when we look at the spending for military, officially as per 2023 data, where the China spend around 296 billion, where India come forth spending 83.6 billion, which we already have a 200 billion shortage, where the US it's almost spending $1 trillion in the economy. So the competition and the rivalry itself is a very it's a very gap and it's asymmetrical. And the other issue which I found profoundly, I believe, when we are discussing about India-China rivalry and other issues, where India lacking, where we should be seeing through is basically about infrastructure development and basic infrastructure and industry development. As per the 2024 projection about India's economic growth, it is 5.5. Out of this, only 9.5% is contributing in industrial growth. But where the China industrial growth, it's 38.3 GDP in the overall GDP, which itself shows how much India is lacking to. We have to catch up towards when we want to face up this rivalry, or we want to have an equal partnership. And in finally, one of other key observation I found for this thing is the most importantly when you talk about civilization and culture, I think in terms of framing the foreign policy, we can give a justification for making a foreign policy. China is saying 100-year humiliation, so this is our time to rule. And so that gives them a justification to expansion based on their economic development. And where India claiming they are a Vishwaguru, basically the leader of the knowledge of the world actually. How much it will help India to achieve, whether it's just a rhetoric, will it help, or whether it's help India to go into the stage, or will play a key role in the great power rivalry, or it will be used as a pawn during the great power rivalry. And it's one of my other observation I like to say when people are saying, in terms of technology, which we keep on hearing for last couple of years talking about China is stealing, China is copying and copying. I think historically the technology, development, innovations always taken from one to another country. It's not only to, given to one particular country, which we all know that. So I think this conference for a students really, I think the graduate student, master student, it really helped, because to understand the relation between the China and the Chinese development and economical technology development, it will help you. Rather than just reading few newspaper and listening to the news channel will never going to help you to understand the grand understanding about what is happening in the world level and particularly about China. Thank you all the experts and the students and teachers for expressing your views and giving your insightful and wisdom and knowledge. Once again, behalf of MIT School of Government, and thank you all. I thank you students and the faculty. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lenin Kumar. Thank you for your observations, and also thank you for expressing your views and also clearing the doubts that we have in our mind. Friends, at this point, I have an important announcement to make. The flagship social initiative of MIT School of Government, the Bharatiya Chhatra Sansad, will be conducted in this campus on 8th, 9th, and 10th of February next year. I invite all of you to visit our website, www.bharatiyachatrasansad.org, to register for the upcoming conference. I repeat, www.bharatiyachatrasansad.org. With this, may I now invite Professor Dr. Jabin Jacob, who is an associate professor at Shiv Nadar University and an adjunct research fellow at the National Maritime Foundation, to express his views on the conference. Dr. Jabin Jacob.
Thank you. I'm going to do three things. So I stand here firstly in my capacity as the director of the Center for Himalayan Studies at the Shiv Nadar University, and we are a partner to the India Forum on China. So I want to start by thanking the MIT School of Government for stepping in at a fairly late stage to organize this event. This 7th India Forum on China has faced several challenges for reasons completely beyond our control. And so I'm particularly appreciative of the MIT for stepping in to organize this, and my thanks especially to Dr. Parimal Maya Sudhakar and to Professor Vishwanath Karatji for supporting this endeavor. And I also want to thank the convener, the students, the faculty here who've all put their shoulder to the wheel, as it were. Second, I want to talk about what we've just, this particular ceremony or session. This is India. We have to do things differently. And frankly, this is the first valedictory session in which there is no valedictory speaker, but the series of remarks by the students. And I'm completely sold on the idea. Frankly, I think this is a great innovation, and all credit to you guys for thinking out of the box. I mean, in India, we need to do things differently because our conditions demand that requirement. I mean, I wish we could also hold these conferences not just in English, but in multiple local languages, the idea of simultaneous translations, etc., so that this goes out to a lot more people. I mean, we are, of course, recording it. It's being live streamed, so I think this is very important. And frankly, if anybody, an expert has to say, he or she can say it in 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes during the sessions. So valedictory, where we get the assessment in real time from those who have actually been listening throughout to this, is actually, to my mind, a great experience. And I don't know if we can replicate it, but I would certainly think that this is a model that will catch on. Third, about the assessment itself. Now, from the remarks, I realize that there's a range of understanding, a range of ways in which people have understood what came out of this conference. And now we are, I take it that, when in times of trouble, it's the neighbor that comes to your aid. But in international politics, that's not necessarily the case. In India's case, our neighbors have been, in many cases, our biggest problems. Now, but the point is important, because even though in many cases our neighbors have been our problems, India simply cannot leapfrog its neighborhood and become a global power. We still need to deal with our neighbors. Geography is going to be there. We still need to deal with our neighbors. We still need to be able to understand them and resolve our problems. Maybe our neighbors are not interested in resolving our problems. That doesn't mean that we are also not interested. We need to find ways to do it. In some cases, it's difficult. So an exercise like India Forum on China, I mean, the idea, I mean, this is a policymakers sort of oriented towards policy. We have an All India Conference of China Studies, which the Institute of Chinese Studies organizes, which is meant for students and scholars and specialists on China to present academic papers. This is a slightly more policy-oriented forum where we have diplomats or men in uniform, practitioners, everybody coming together. But the idea still remains the same, that we need to be able to understand China in order to frame our policies. And so, unless we put in the effort to analyze, I mean, when we have a problem with somebody else, that is all the more reason when we should be trying to understand, putting in the extra effort to study China. We have 3 colleagues from here from Taiwan. Who has a greater problem with China than Taiwan? So I think our Taiwanese colleagues understand China a heck of a lot better than yeah. So I mean, the other thing is, look, since we have what we call the tyranny of the English language. We study everything in English, and one of the problems from studying everything in English is that we are used to a Western perspective on things. We do not have the confidence to put forward our own perspective on China. But it is Taiwan, it is India, it is Japan, it is Vietnam. These are the countries who face the Chinese challenge day in and day out on our borders. So it is perspectives from India, from these countries, that we need to be able to understand and put forward more confidently, so that this informs other understandings or studies. I mean, we need, of course, a give and take. So I think this is something that, hopefully as people, entering government or political life in the future, you will keep in mind. And by the way, a big responsibility for all of you, especially those in the MIT School of Government. One of the reasons why China studies, forget China studies, Pakistan studies or any international relations doesn't take off in India, or security studies doesn't take off in India, is lack of resources. The government thinks government knows best. And in a democratic country, I can stand and say government doesn't know best. Okay? Government needs to be informed by expertise, and government needs to support expertise outside its 4 walls in order for creative views and understanding to come through. Otherwise, you'll have this one view on China, or one view on Pakistan, or one view on the United States. That's not helpful. All right? And so you guys have a big challenge ahead of you if you are entering government or political life. How are you going to be able to get the best input? I mean, look at what's been happening in the last 4 years in China, with China on the border. How well informed are we of what is happening or what is not happening? So that pressure to be informed will only come from us. So we need to be able to do a lot more. All right? So I see people nodding heads vigorously, but 10 years from now or 5 years from now, when you are in power, I'm going to ask you, what's the difference? All right, so thank you all. I really enjoyed this. I think we had an excellent 2 days. And my thanks especially to the colleagues who've come from far to join us for this event. And thank you also to the students. All the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Javin Jacob, for your remarks. Indeed, it was a wholesome 2-day experience for all of us, especially in the coterie of intellectual and scholarly people that we have had. Next up, I would now like to invite Professor Dr. Arvind Yelleri. He is the convener of the 7th India Forum on China, an honorary fellow at the Institute of Chinese Studies, and associate professor at the Center of East Asian Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, to present the conference report.
Thank you.
couple of more points what I will just introduce, and I'm also alumni of SP College. So most of you do not know actually. I was also taught by Dev sir, Sanjot ma'am also was there. So most of you who come from SP College, thanks to you, thank you very much for joining it. So what I was there, 27 years back from there to now, so you can see that journey. This is very important. I think that's what matters the most for me as an important takeaway. There is another connection. I taught in MITSOC, the first batch I taught here as a guest faculty. That's the second, small glimpse to tell you what's my connection. The third connection, the three people sitting here are the classmates. Year 2000. From year 2024 until today, we have been really integral to China Studies IR. We did not deviate like a missile deviates like a crow, okay? Missile has a trajectory it has to follow. And we followed our trajectory like a missile, not like a crow. So that's very important for all of you sitting around the table. And also, it's important that what you start doing it, please pursue it. Till the last minute you drop, you again rise and do it. That's very important for a lot of you. Now I come back to these ceremonial part of me presenting the report. Yeah, most of you have learned a lot. As a convener, I have also learned a lot, and I think every version of India Forum on China has been absolutely different for all of us. As Jabin said, we're bringing policymakers, emerging leaders in different fields to come, bring, and share their ideas so that we can exchange ideas and make it more better. Starting with the first session, when it was presided by Vishwanath Jikrad, the founder, president of MIT WPU, Lieutenant General Ajay Kumar Singh, the ICS Honorary Director and also the Chairperson of Center for East Asian Study, JNU, Professor Kacharya, Vice Chancellor R.M. Chitnis, and my dearest friend Parimal and myself. I tell you that first session it looked like, under that dome we're sitting, we're talking about universal principles, universality of education, imparting values and knowledge. Apart from that, I would like to also say that what we spoke yesterday and today, it is not only the universality of education principles, but also the universal realities of existence, survival. As a nation state, as a country, we have a lot of questions and priorities which keep on changing, and we have to address them vigorously. Just now, Lenin spoke about Vishwaguru. Yes, I do not really conflict that. But when a country is becoming a $5 trillion economy, our share in education is decreasing, and then you see the three people over here with 24 years of integrity coming back to the grassroots and sharing their information, sharing their knowledge, sharing their expertise. This will make us Vishwaguru, not by reducing the budget in education. And being an academician, I am supposed to be critical, and I am critical over here. And that would take us ahead. And it is the responsibility of every one of us, what was told and shared in the first session, we should make it practically operationable in our daily lives. We need to understand what are the pitfalls, conflicts we face today, right? A lot of expertise have talked about, some of the screens we were watching, the screens, LED screens, the technologies we are importing. We're building our own capacities also. So when we talk about 9 realms, 7 realms, 4 or 5 realms, we talk about beliefs, we talk about faith, mind and brain and whatnot, we have a lot of challenges in the existential form. Yes, we should have good neighbors, but if the good neighbors are not good with you, I don't think there is a straightforward answer to that, right? So I think that was the first session, which was very important, which brought out important questions pertaining to why exchanging ideas are necessary, engaging with your adversary is necessary, but also rectifying your analysis about your neighbor is also necessary or important. Moving to the second session, which was chaired by Air Marshal Bhushan Gokhale. This was something very unique where we talked about centralized decision making, technological self-sufficiency, and innovation. And this was really fantastic session because Venkat, our senior in JNU, a faculty at IIM Indore, he did the best job of laying down entirely the scenario, what is in front of us, talking about how the centralization talk about decentralization. Now, that looks a little bit oxymoron, and that's, I think, is a thought-provoking. You have to question yourself. See, important thing, what we forget is, when you innovate something, when you invent something, what you do the first thing? You question the existing setup, right? In China, if they want to innovate and invent something, they do not let you question something. And they still want you to be disruptive in thinking. Now that becomes actually super oxymoron. If you are not asking a question, how can you be innovative? But the state, which is run by the party, wants individual to question, but there are limitations to those questioning, right? So this is something important to understand. China wants to keep the country in motion. CPC wants country in motion, but not allowing people to question, not people to be argumentative. The first thing what we do in India is we are argumentative. We argument with parents, with teachers. We make jokes on gods also. We are super argumentative. This argumentative brings the critical faculty, and that critical faculty is being, kept alive. This is very important in us. Can we think that same thing happening in China? Possibly not, right? I can say possibly not because from 1949 it is not happening, right? But you see this thing right next to it when you see Taiwan. Highly argumentative country. Elections have happened 6 months on, but the parliament of Taiwan is still fighting, arguing about the budget. 6 months on. You see different culture altogether with the few, but 50, 60 miles away from each other, but there's so much of stark difference. And that was brought out by the important factor in the first session. So I must thank Dr. Atul, Ms. Lin, and Professor Venkatraman for illuminating that session and bringing those important points in front of us. Moving to the second session, which was chaired by Professor Alkacharya and Tanvi, Dr. Tanvi and Manjunath were the one who made it more interesting by talking about how China wants to be numero uno. China is a highly hierarchical country, a society. There is always a hierarchy. Chinese might point out to India saying that you have Varna system, you have this and that, but China is having or believing in or having the faith in the hierarchy. This brings me to the concept, of hegemony. China builds in hegemony and convinces others to believe in its version of hegemony. It says that it was Anglo-Saxon century, it was American century, and because Anglo-Saxon century were at the center, Americans were at the center, that's the reason there was a central pillar and the force around which the forces, were running around. China sells that idea, and most of the countries are sold to that. So this session was very important to underline that how China, by not accepting a lot of principles of governance, principles of sharing, principles of co-partnering with the countries, but still wants to be at the center of world affairs, trying to be numero uno. And this is something which is very problematic when China's stand or number of issues are discussed around, right? The important factor which both of them talk about, that while China progresses ahead technologically, militarily, it denies its citizen its rights. It denies its neighbor the right to question that. And this is something very important for all of us to understand that. While China is growing, China is trying to become numero uno. It is, it is trying to reinforce its capacities in space and cyber arenas. And this is something very worrisome for most of us. Moving to session 3, where Dr. Rupak Jyoti Barua chaired the session, and where, along with me, Professor Nityanandam and Divay Pranav were part of the session. This session, I felt in between that I should also jump and chair the session, because I wanted to comment and speak so much. This is something unique, because when we talk about the technology, when we talk about green innovation, when we talk about electrical vehicles, there are dualities when it comes to India. If you see from year 2000 and until now, our dependency on China has grown, the trade dependencies, and especially whatever materials we require from China to make ourselves, Atmanirbhar. I'll give you examples, and I think most of those discussions came in this session, were reflected in this session. The moment India catches up with China, China has moved up to the next ladder. And when India moves up to that ladder, China would move up to the next ladder. China is ahead of India when it comes to innovation. I'm not saying invention, innovation. When it comes to adaptabilities. Today we talk about, no, we are not buying the low-grade plastic, low-grade glass, low-grade silica from China, but what we buy high-grade is also coming from China, right? 90% of the laptop plastic, which is a high-grade plastic, which we make in India, is imported from China. So it is important to understand that by the time you innovate something, you are happy you have innovated something, but there is something much has been innovated much before you, then you try to match that gap, and then you realize that, oh, I still fall short. This is important. This is, this is the cycle, multiple cycles India has gone into and has to cope up with. We have about 100 billion of plus trade, 125 to 130 billion of US dollars of trade. But the widening of the trade deficit is certainly worrisome to us. And then that really brings back us to the question that, are we really innovating? Are we innovating a timely manner? Time is the crux, and we have to catch up with that. Coming back to the sessions, and then especially the fourth session, the last session today, it was amazing. I think the chair was really struggling to find adjectives, one after another presentation. But it was really amazing. That really created the new scenario in front of us. How do we really understand challenges? The presentation by esteemed Professor Shan and Dr. Lee was amazing, because the way they have put down and discussed about the military-civil fusion and the impact, and the way the industrialization is happening, it's quite important. Most of us, we do use products which were created by the defense. Pressure cooker, Teflon, right? Most of the Teflon products which we use were used in the aircrafts. When the pilot used to move the rudders, they wanted a material to cover the wire with the Teflon so that it doesn't really get caught fire, right? And then protects the castle, right? That is actually the technology which was produced by the aircrafts. But what is happening in China today is that everything you talk about, and especially the term which was used, the demand and supply, and that was used in different contexts. Lenin used that term, or somebody used the term. It is the state which creates the demand, and it is the state only who supplies it, right? The state creates a demand calling there is a threat, and then the state asks its SOEs, and then the private enterprises, please come forward to meet it. It is the state-generated demand and supply. This is not only in narration, but this is also in the production. And that's where you realize it that, civil military fusion is becoming so much of a real character, the way Chinese industries are performing and are rising up to the challenges. And this is not only about, the satellite or, the presentation by Brigadier Narang. That was like blitzkrieg. That was like a lightning. And then we are like, I felt like I'm an intern in China studies. And then you really understand that, how much you need to do. You need to understand and learn, unlearn and learn. Civil military fusion is something every one of us understand. It is not only, if you believe that it is the Chinese industries who are independently innovating, no, that's wrong. And if you think that it is the economic pressures, that's also not correct, right? So that session is also something which helped every one of us to understand the nuances of the industrial landscape in China and how that has been instrumental in helping the Chinese industries, helping the Chinese military, and helping the Chinese party and the legacy to carry forward it successfully. So at the end, let me again quickly thank and also wind up by saying that the theme of intersection of science and technology and then its role in changing or maybe influencing the world affairs and especially creating the challenges for India was important part of the forum, but also we did not stop at this position at this point, but we need to take it forward and discuss the different aspects of this in the coming future. Couple of quick announcements. I haven't taken the permission from our co-sponsor, Shiv Nadar, the Institute of Eminence and Deemed University and the Center for Himalayan Studies. The director is sitting here. Then you have Parimal Maya Sudhakar, who has been instrumental in running the MITSA programs and motivating most of you. We are in a situation and we are thinking to formulate something like this and an event annually to come back to you again and institutionalize in one other form. Secondly, we want all of you to please reach out, every one of us who have presented the papers here, for any queries you have. And please, sorry for my Taiwanese friends and others also who do not follow Marathi, जर तुम्हाला इंग्रजीत लिहिता येत नसेल तर मराठीत लिहा, मराठीत बोला, लाज वाटायची अजिबात गरज नाही. तुम्ही बोलणं हे महत्त्वाचं आहे, ते कुठल्याही भाषेत असो, मराठीत असो, हिंदीत असो. So what I told them is that language is not important here. If you cannot speak in English, please write to us, communicate with us in any language. You want to communicate me in Kannada, Hindi, Telugu, Chinese, French or Marathi, please come forward and do that. Please, knowledge is very important here, not the medium of language, okay? So thank you once again for MIT. Thank you once again to Shiv Nadar for making this event a success. We look forward to the 8th version of IFC next year. We have already started planning since yesterday. So yes, we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Yellery, for a detailed report on the conference and things that have happened for the last 2 days. Friends, may I take this opportunity to express my gratitude to all the organizers. First, the Institute of Chinese Studies, Shiv Nadar University, and the MIT School of Government for coming up with this wonderful 7th India Forum on China conference. I would also like to take a moment to thank and express my gratefulness to the convener, Professor Dr. Arvind Yellery, and co-convener, Professor Dr. Parimal Maya Sudhakar, for their constant support and guidance in taking this conference from strength to strength. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Food and Logistics team, Transport team, IT and Infrastructure team, Social Media team, PR team, Media team, Photography and Videography team, and the volunteers who have been extremely supportive in helping us realize this conference. But last and not the least, I'm also grateful to all the participants who have showed up for this conference on the last 2 days. We've received 140 registrations and more than 100 of you have turned up in the last 2 days. So thank you so much. Friends, as we move to the last segment of this session, may I now invite Professor Dr. Parimal Maya Sudhakar, co-convener of the 7th India Forum on China Conference and Associate Professor at the MIT School of Government, to express vote of thanks. Professor Dr. Parimal Maya Sudhakar.
Thank you. This is extension of the vote of thanks that Chinmay has proposed. But just as a formality, as a co-convener, I'm here for expressing my gratitude for all of you. And I would like to pick up from what Arvind concluded, that the theme that we have discussed, when for the first time Arvind told me that the theme of this year's forum is this one, intersection of science and technology in China's industrial revolution and its challenges to India and the world. So I thought that, yes, this is also an aspect that we all should study and we all should know about it. Now, after conclusion of this forum, I'm in a position to say that if we want to understand China and if we want to tackle China, I think science and technology is the most important aspect that we really need to know about China, that what China is doing in this particular field, in this particular domain. And therefore, it is not also, but it is the aspect that we must study about it. This forum has brought to the fore several issues that are important regarding China, what China is doing in the domain of science and technology, and how we really need to look at it. So when we talk about the theme of the entire forum, we basically talked about science, we talked about technology, we talked about industrial development, and then China, India, and the world. So there are so many things that in last 3 days we have put it together. And the presentations that have happened in last 3 days, the intensity of all those presentations are also reassuring that we are certainly in a position to come out with some kind of a publication based on the proceedings of this particular forum, and that is something that we would like to see that this is happening soon with the cooperation of all the panelists, all the chair in this forum. And therefore, while we will be concluding this forum, but the outcome of this forum is something that certainly would also come out in the near future also. When this forum came to MIT School of Government some time back, we decided that we tried to explore whether we could organize this at the School of Government or not. My first instinct, gut feeling was that yes, we must organize it at the School of Government, because at the MIT School of Government, what we believe is that this is a school to train political leaders, the budding politicians. And for them, we consider that everything under the sun is important to know for them. And while the core politics comprises 70% of their syllabus, but the rest 30%, under that 30%, they should know everything in this world, as much as possible or so. And therefore, my first reaction was that yes, very much important for the School of Government, for the MIT World Peace University, and we must go forward doing this particular forum. But the most challenging part was whether on such a short notice we would be able to organize it or not. And then I basically rang up my good friend and our colleague, Dr. Ganesh Mantri. May I ask Dr. Ganesh Mantri to please stand up and ask him whether logistically it would be feasible for us or not. And then he reassured that yes, we must take up this challenge and we should go ahead doing this forum. So thank you, Dr. Ganesh Mantri, for stepping in at a key moment and ensuring that everything is in place from the hotel accommodation. It suddenly became a big challenge because this is a peak wedding season in Pune. and became the problem to find out good hotels. Those who plan their weddings, they plan it minimum 6 to 8 months in advance. Believe me, and muhurtas and holidays and the weekends, all of them became very important in the wedding planning in India. So many good hotels were booked. It became difficult to get accommodation also. But somehow we managed to do it, transportation, food arrangement, etc. So all those things have fallen in place because of our good team. I must take name of Ame, Chinmay, Harshal, Datta, Akash, all of them have cooperated very well in organizing this entire event. We have a small team of researchers, and all the researchers also chipped in and contributed in organizing this forum. Another challenge for us was that all our students and we also were quite busy with the Maharashtra Assembly election. And the result of that election came out only on 23rd of November. So it is only after a week after that we really were able to put up all our efforts in this particular direction. Our students were on the field working in different places, etc. So they came back only after the election results, and with the help of them we were able to put the things in place and have this forum quite successfully. To much of our surprise, the response that we received from our own students and from the student community and scholars in the city of Pune was really amazing, quite good response. When we opened up the registration form, we had to close it when we got around 138 registrations, and we thought that, oh, that's too much of it. We may not be able to handle more than this at this point of time. And around more than 100 of them have turned up in different sessions, and at no point of time the participation was below 55 in last 3 days or so. And I think for any conference, this is a good participation, wherein all the participants are quite attentive, taking interest in the proceedings and asking good questions as well. So thank you to all the participants, all the scholars who have participated in it. It just happened that some universities also have come together because of this forum. So while in organizing Shivnadar University, Institute of Chinese Studies, and because Arvind is working with Jawaharlal Nehru University and MIT School of Government have to come together. From Pune, Savitribai Phule Pune University, represented by students and faculty members of SP College and Modern College, they have become part of this forum. Flame University and Symbiosis University were represented by their research scholars and their faculty members. So I think this is a good participation that we have been able to reach out and ensure. And this also shows the kind of interest that China has already generated amongst the students and scholars. And therefore, in that context, what Arvind has proposed, and we have already accepted it, that we should institutionalize a discussion forum or some sort of annual platform wherein in Pune we can annually organize good discussions and scholars, students from Pune can take part in these proceedings annually. And in the end, I would like to thank our founder, Rahul Karat, who has founded this MIT School of Government in the year 2005 with the objective of training young students to enter politics. And his simple motive was basically to generate a goodwill amongst the students about politics and to encourage them to join politics. And this is the 20th batch of the School of Government, wherein the students who have taken part, taken admission in this course. All of them, they want to join politics in the near future, or some of them are already in the politics. And as they are going to be the policy makers, lawmakers, influencers in the society, I think it is important for all of them to know more about international relations and about the about China and India-China relations as well also. So my heartful thanks to our founder Rahul Karad, and founder of MIT World Peace University, Vishwanath Karad, for allowing us to organize this forum and to ensure that everything goes on smoothly. There were many other departments of MIT World Peace University who were also involved in facilitating things for us. There is a logistical department, there is a transport committee. So all of them also cooperated, and therefore we were able to organize this particular forum quite successfully. So thank you everyone for being here, for being very attentive and participative. And as Arvind and Dr. Jabin also has appealed to all of you should be in touch with or in conversation with the scholars who have presented here, made presentations on different aspects here. This is not the only thing that Shiv Nadar University or Institute of Chinese Studies or MIT School of Government we do. There are a lot other things, so get connected to all these institutions on the LinkedIn and on other social media platform also, so that all of us could be in a constant touch, and this entire partnership can become very fruitful in the near future as well. My special thanks to our friends who have come from Taiwan to participate in this forum and for your valuable inputs in this particular forum. And we are looking forward to this partnership in the near future as well. So thank you so much. And with the permission of chair, with the permission of the convener, now I would like to declare that the 7th India Forum on China reaches its conclusion now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Parimal Maya Sudhakar. Friends, we are now approaching the end of this session and therefore the conference. May I please make a small announcement to all of you. After the end of the conference, I request all the dignitaries to please come forward along with the participants for a group photograph. And as we are now coming to the end, may I request all of you to please rise in your seats for the national anthem. Thank you very much.